Today on the show, my guest is going to explain how he was able to use his martial arts background to essentially get back on his feet after life threw some punches at him and knocked him down. He's back on his feet. He's a professional MMA fighter, and he's even got a fight coming up in a couple of days. You don't want to miss this episode of The Game Time Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time! Woo!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of the Game Time Guru podcast. I'm your host, Shane Larson, coming at you today with a special guest all the way from the beaches of San Diego, California, Mr. Brendon Raftery. Brendon, thanks so much for joining me.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm honored.
Yeah, for sure. And did I pronounce your last name correctly? Is it Raftery? How do you pronounce that?
You did, man, and you are one of the few people to get that right. I've had my first name and my last name just pretty much butchered by most people, and I don't know why, dude. It's not that hard. You know what I mean? You just got to kind of read it how it's spelled, and you should be able to pronounce it correctly. So I appreciate that. Thank you, and yes, you did say it right.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, you know what's funny is I was actually listening before, and I think it was one of your fights from a while back, and somebody called you Rafferty, and then other people around the valley were calling you the same thing, but I was like, no, that's not how it's spelled. So, okay, anyways, I'm glad that was pronounced correctly. So, Brendon, you're all the way down in San Diego. What are you doing down there? Like, what is your job? Like, what are you doing full time?
Well, dude, I came down to San Diego, and I was working when I first got here. I was working just like a warehouse job, you know, just doing mindless kind of general labor. And I was fortunate enough to come across a coaching position at the MMA gym I was training at. So, and I've been doing that ever since, man. And so, honestly, I don't have a normal job, dude. I feel like I won at life already, because that was one of my biggest goals, was to not have to work for like a normal job, or have a normal boss, you know what I mean? You know, for working for some company where I didn't really have any passion for what I was doing. And like every day I was in that warehouse, man, my soul was just like screaming that this wasn't the right place for me, and I needed to get out of there. And I don't really do well with someone telling me what to do and taking orders from someone. So like I knew I had to find a way to become my own boss and find a way to support myself, you know, and I was able to do that by at the gym I was at, was fairly new, and I was talking to my coach, and I was like, hey man, if you need any extra coaches, I would love to try to help out. And he had enough faith in me to bring me on as a coach, and I kind of branched out from there and started doing like personal training sessions and just kind of passing on the knowledge that I had to other people, and you know, helping people achieve their fitness goals, or if they wanted to learn boxing or jiu-jitsu, whatever it was. So that's what I do for income, and I'm a coach and kind of a personal trainer, and I love it. It's one of the best things I've ever had the privilege of doing in my life, and I'm just so happy that I don't have to have a normal job anymore. That's, like I said, I feel like I won at life. So yeah.
Man, you're doing exactly what, I mean, pretty much like 98% of the population wants to do. So power to you, man. That's a blessing, dude. That's freaking awesome. Good for you.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. And you're down in Southern California, but we're going to get to the story of how you even showed up down there, because for the listeners, Brendon was actually from the same valley where I'm at here in Idaho, kind of in the Treasure Valley area, right outside of Boise, a couple miles out of Boise here in Meridian. But we're going to get to that. But you're known for your mixed martial arts fighting, but I kind of want to talk about your early days, man. Before you even got into mixed martial arts, what were your early days of martial arts, or any kind of training in that aspect, I should say?
Sure, yeah. So when I was really young, man, 5 years old actually was the age, my parents threw me in Kenpo Karate, and that's where it all started, man. I'm forever grateful for them doing that for me, and it felt like I was supposed to be a fighter from day one. They found a local karate school there in Meridian, Idaho, and enrolled me. And, like, you know, at that age, you don't really know what you're doing. You don't really, you know, you're just kind of there because your parents are making you be there. But I really appreciate those early days on, and that's kind of what instilled that martial artist spirit in me. And that's really where it started, man, is I did Kenpo Karate for about 7 or 8 years, I want to say, and I was able to achieve my black belt in that. And then around 15, I think was the age, 14 or 15, I had kind of moved on. I was already kind of playing around with like jiu-jitsu. I was aware of like MMA and what it was, and I would watch old UFC tapes that my dad had. You know, I would watch those and just get all geeked out over those. So I was aware that there was more than karate, and I wanted to learn the other stuff too. And so kind of just started learning jiu-jitsu on my own. You know, there's me and actually some of my buddies at Kenpo. We would practice jiu-jitsu. We didn't really know what we were doing. You know, we would just kind of mess around with arm locks and whatnot and try to figure out, you know, if I bend this the wrong way, does that hurt? You know, those are like the early days of learning information. So, you know what I mean? So, like, we're lucky we didn't end up in the hospital. But, so yeah, just kind of progressed from karate, messing around with jiu-jitsu. I found another local jiu-jitsu school there under Tom Sutnet, who was really my first jiu-jitsu coach. Shout out to Tom Sutnet. And got into jiu-jitsu, and then what really, really helped me out was getting into wrestling. I started wrestling in middle school and progressed into high school as well. And I say this all the time, man, but like high school wrestling really made me kind of who I am, kind of made me a man, and really taught me about what work ethic is and how to just kind of conduct yourself. And I'm really, really grateful for wrestling, man, and just kind of the man it made me. And I still carry that hard work ethic and that spirit of a wrestler into my everyday life and training. You know, there's a saying that goes, once you've wrestled, everything else in life is easy. And, you know, I really kind of believe that. Those wrestling practices were still some of the hardest days of my life, and I'm forever grateful for that. So, yeah, you know, like I said, man, just kind of progressed from karate to jiu-jitsu and wrestling. And, you know, I always knew I was going to fight. That's what I wanted to do. I've always been a scrappy little punk kid and always found myself getting into, like, street fights in those scenarios. So I always knew I'd be a fighter, man. It was a natural progression. I love it. You know, I love the sport.
That's so freaking awesome. Okay, so you went from Kenpo. One question in Kenpo, because I was talking to you before we actually started recording about Kenpo Karate. Do you remember one of the very first moves they ever teach you in Kenpo, and it was called alternating maces? Do you ever remember that?
You know, I don't remember that exact move, but that just makes me laugh because of all there was a lot of like silly techniques that they were teaching, you know. Yeah. And I like very vaguely remember what that is, but remind me, what does that consist of?
So the alternating maces was essentially like a 3-strike, you're out kind of thing. Somebody grabs you two-handed on the chest, and you break it with your front hand, hit them in the sternum with basically a straight from your backhand, and then you back knuckle them to finish it off. And I just thought it was really funny. It was like if somebody grabs you with two hands, boom, 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 and it was just called alternating maces. I just thought it was funny. The good old days, man. So you went from the striking world in Kenpo, because it was basically all striking. That was one of the things I loved about Kenpo, is it was a lot of striking with your hands. There was some kicks involved, but there's a lot of hand stuff, and I was intrigued by like punching. So I loved Kenpo. So then you go into jiu-jitsu and then also into the wrestling world, and you talked about the wrestling practices. Bro, I'm not even kidding you. I've talked about this before with other people. When I was in high school, I was just a few years older than you, but I'm sure you guys were practicing. I mean, I was a senior when you were probably a sophomore or a junior. But, dude, the wrestling practices would be going on while we were in basketball practice. So we're down on the court, and the wrestlers are, you know, running laps. And I remember we would be on the court downstairs, and we thought we had it hard. We'd see guys running over, puking in the trash can, getting right back at it. They're doing down and backs and all sorts of crap. Dude, it was disgusting. I could not believe y'all were doing it. You guys were running stair laps. Like, and I'm talking about stair laps where you had the four corners of the entire gym, and you were going up the stairs and then across and then down the stairs, and you had somebody on your back. Dude, that's insane.
Oh yeah, man. That's an everyday thing. That was just part of the warm up. Seriously, it was so crazy, man. It was literally like, you know, you'd be in school all day. You show up, you get at school at 8:30 a.m. whatever, and you go through your school day, and then you're already tired from school. And as soon as school's over, you have to go straight to wrestling practice. You know, and man, it's just, you go in, and it's usually about a 3-hour practice, and you walk into this mat room, and it just instantly reeks of just like sweat and tears, and the temperature's cranked up to like 80, and you're literally just wrestling and conditioning for 3 hours. You know, our coach would give us like one water break. It was like a minute long. He'd be yelling at you to get back on the mat. And, you know, in the moment, you're like, this is hell. But then you come out of that and you realize it lets you know what you're capable of as a human being, you know, and how far you can really push yourself. And, yeah, and I remember always, because basketball season and wrestling season were always like the same time, right? So we'd always be practicing the same time as you guys. And there'd always be like little parts of my mind as I'm walking in the wrestling room, like, damn, I should have fucking played basketball, you know. But I just, yeah, man, wrestling was awesome, and I'm really grateful for it.
Man, power to you, man. That's some crazy stuff. And I think any wrestler, it doesn't matter which school you went to, whatever, like they can probably say the same thing. Those practices are unlike anything I've ever seen. So you go from wrestling, and now you're kind of like, you see this mixed martial arts stuff. It's starting to take, I guess when I was in high school, I graduated in 2006, but like it wasn't really hitting it didn't have like a rhythm going here in the Valley. Nobody really knew about mixed martial arts unless you were doing what you said like before, like people like yourself who were kind of, you know, you had that you had that martial arts background with like Kenpo and you were watching old UFC tapes. By the way, the original UFC tapes, like with Hoist Gracie and all them, those are the best fights in the entire world. Those are the way fights should be. That's just my opinion. You know, no weight class, just go ahead and just go at it until someone's done. I love those. Who was your favorite fighter, by the way? I just want to ask you that. From the originals, like when you were watching old school stuff.
You know, I didn't really have, you know, actually that's a lie. Vitor Belfort was my favorite. And shout out to him, he just recently retired. He's been doing it forever. But he was the guy that, like, I wanted to be when I was younger. I remember watching him. He was 18 years old in the UFC, and the first time I saw him, I had an old VHS tape. It was UFC 12. And he was 18 years old, just this young Brazilian kid, and his nickname was the Phenom. And I remember watching this dude and just his hand speed, man. He would throw these combinations, and it was just, like, lightning quick. And he was just dropping guys that had, you know, 60 pounds on him, and he was just running through the heavyweight division. And he was my hero, man. I was watching him like, I want to be like Vitor Belfort. That's the guy right there. Because he's this young kid beating grown men, and I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever. So shout out to Vitor Belfort.
Vitor Belfort, man. And just that gives me chills because I used to study tapes when I was younger. I was studying tapes of all these fighters, and I had a King of the Cage tape of Vitor Belfort fighting in the championship against a dude he outweighed him by close to 80 pounds, and the announcers are talking. It's also on VHS, so it's funny that you're saying that's why it gave me chills. The announcer goes, yeah, we got the lightning quick guy right here, and they're talking about the power of the big dude, and then he goes, but I'm just telling you guys right now, Roy Jones isn't going to knock out Mike Tyson. Well, go figure. 20 seconds into the match, dude, he just drops the dude, hits him, quick hands, boom, guy drops, he jumps on top of him, finishes him off with the strikes in the back. It was amazing. So you kind of were, this is why I say you were the pioneer of MMA, mixed martial arts in our city, because like I said, when I graduated high school, it really wasn't, I mean, I boxed, and that was kind of cool back then. Boxing was pretty big. It was getting big in the Valley with Golden Gloves and such, and we had some good fighting clubs around here, but you kind of started off, it was you and another kid that were at our high school that kind of really took MMA by the horns and kind of went with it. How did you get into MMA when it wasn't even that big? Where did you guys start here in the Valley? Where were the gyms, and how did you even get interested in fighting when nobody else was really doing it?
Yeah, so like I was saying, man, it was just I always kind of knew, you know, even on a subconscious level that I wanted to fight. It just kind of felt like something I was pulled to do, you know. That doesn't mean it didn't scare me or that I didn't, you know, I know how crazy it is. I know it's a crazy career choice, but I just always I enjoyed fighting. When I found myself smacked out in the middle of a fist fight, I would catch myself and be like, man, this is awesome. My adrenaline's pumping, and it was always just fun to me, man, you know. And so the first gym I was at was a gym called Primal Tribe, and that was ran by the coach I mentioned earlier, Tom Supnet. And it was mostly a jiu-jitsu gym, man, honestly. That's kind of where I first started learning jiu-jitsu, and that it worked perfectly with my wrestling, so I kind of started off as more of a grappler. I had some striking experience from karate, but I was definitely more of a grappler in my early days. I always wanted to take the fight to the ground and just hold people down and beat on them. You know, that was way more fun for me. I'm like, I don't even want to give you a chance on the feet to hit me. I'm just going to take you down and hold you down and beat you up, you know. And so yeah, Primal Tribe was the first gym that I trained at, and it was just a small gym. We had like you know, what was really funny was the location was like this upstairs little rental spot right above this Mexican restaurant, and I can't remember the name of the restaurant. I think it's gone now. It's like Casa de Mexico or something like that, but really good spot too. They had some good chicken enchiladas, but it was right above that restaurant, just in this little tiny rental space, and we just had a rolled out mat, you know, just old school style, man, and we would just roll and beat the hell out of each other, and that's kind of where it started. And yeah, man, those are the good days.
Man, okay, so what year was that you guys actually started training there?
Let's see. I want to say 15 years old. So whatever year that was, I want to say like 2008, something like that. I had my first MMA fight was when I was 15 years old. I was just about to be 16. And we had to lie to the commission. My parents signed this waiver that said I was 16 so that I could fight, but I was really 15. My birthday was still like 2 or 3 weeks away. So I don't remember the exact year I started training for Animal Tribe, but I know I was only like 14 or 15 years old.
Crazy. And then you fought when you were 15. Did you win your first fight?
I did, man. Yeah, I was 15, and I remember fighting dude who was 22, and the fight was just like chaos, man. The fight started, and it was when, as an amateur, you could still knee to the head. It was pretty crazy, man. There's basically no rules. And you could still knee to the head as an amateur. So I remember kind of just like blacked out, I swear. Like the fight started, and it felt like someone had like pressed the stopwatch. Like, all right, let's see how fast you can finish this. And I remember just kind of locking up with the dude. I got him in like a headlock kind of and started just kneeing him in the head over and over again. And I felt him kind of collapse. And then ended up sinking in a guillotine and choked him and ended up getting the tap. So, yeah, I won my first fight. Dude, I was hooked. I'm like, this is as terrifying as this was also, exhilarating, and I knew that this is what I was going to be doing,
Props to you, man. I bet the 22-year-old probably never wanted to fight again. You just got beat by a high schooler. That sucks.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever fought again or not.
That's awesome, though. So you started your amateur career on a high note then. How many fights did you have as an amateur before you decided to make the turn pro?
I had 8 amateur fights. I went 6-2 as an amateur, and then on my 8th fight, we kind of just coordinated with my coaches at the time and decided that I was ready enough to move on to the pro ranks, and that's what I wanted anyway. So it just felt right to move on to the professional level.
And can you explain for the listeners a little bit, so when you were starting as an amateur, you could still knee to the head, but what were some of the rule changes? I mean, when you went from amateurs to the pros, because some people have a lot of confusion in regards to an amateur MMA fighter and a pro MMA fighter, because they don't, boxing, you can kind of tell the difference. It's like, you got headgear, blah, 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 blah. There's a little bit difference in amateurs, but what's the difference between MMA? Because they look the same almost when you're watching them.
Yeah, exactly. Very similar. So the main difference between professionals and amateurs, the professionals are getting paid. That's the main difference, is that when you're a professional athlete, you're getting paid for your performance, and that's what we're all trying to do. But when I started out, man, the only difference in MMA between amateur and professionals was that you couldn't throw elbows. And honestly, that was it, man. When I started, hey, you can knee to the head, you can do all this, but just don't throw elbows. That was the only rule as an amateur. And then once you turn pro, you can throw elbows. And it varies from state to state, depending on the commission. It's not one giant, rule set. So it varies depending on which state you're competing in. But I think they changed a lot of those rules now. I'm pretty sure that not many amateurs can knee to the head, still no elbows. But you're wearing the same gear. You have 4-ounce gloves, and that's it. There's some promotions here in California, especially, that they will make you wear shin guards. So you have shin guards, and I think there's even some that they'll increase the ounces on the gloves, so you're wearing a little bit larger gloves and you got shin guards on. And I kind of like that, man. I think that at an amateur level, your first MMA fight, just something a little more to protect you as you're getting used to it. I'm happy that I got to start in the more barbaric days, just because it got me more experience early on. And but yeah, it's the main difference between professionals and amateurs is pros get paid, and that's what we're all trying to do.
Solid, man. Okay. So you went 6-2 as an AMI, then get into the pros. Let's discuss your professional career up until this point. How many pro fights have you had?
So professional MMA fights, I have had 8 as well, and I'm 5-3 as a pro currently.
Okay, and when was your last fight that you had as a pro?
My last pro fight was March 22nd of this year, so 2018, so just a couple months ago.
All right. Now, what was the biggest – I know I want to say you fought for Bellator. Is that the biggest platform that you fought on before?
Yeah, absolutely. That was definitely the biggest fight I've had, biggest platform I fought for. That was a real honor, man. That was, we had found out that Bellator was going to come to Boise, and we had a real solid group of guys at the gym I was at, SBG. And so we were lucky enough, they they'll pick out local guys to fill up the undercard of their shows. So we got me and like a handful of my teammates to compete for Bellator. Man, that was a real honor. It was a cool chance to see kind of what that next level is like. They've had the nicest cage that I've ever fought in. That canvas felt like I was fighting on a cloud, and it was just nice to see how things were kind of run at a higher level. So that was real cool.
Man, that's so dope. Okay, so so that's the highest platform that you've fought on until now. What were the nerves like though when you were fighting there? Did you have was it an extra oomph of nervousness? Was it an extra did you tighten up a little bit? How was it when you were trying to come out? Because you guys, from what I understood, you guys fought at the same arena that a lot of the other fights, like Front Street fights and the smaller promotions, fight at. Is that the only time you've ever fought at CenturyLink Arena, or was it just different? How was it?
Yeah, so I fought at that arena a lot, man, because I was fighting there in the early days when it was a promotion called XFS, I believe. And
Extreme Fight Series or something.
Yeah, man, yeah. So I used to fight for those guys. So I fought at CenturyLink. There used to be Quest Arena. Remember that when it used to be Quest Arena?
Yep. Yeah, Quest.
So I fought there, and then they changed it to CenturyLink. I probably had, I don't know, man, I want to say 6, 7, or 8 fights in that arena. So it's cool to fight there because it feels very familiar. And honestly, for the Bellator thing, man, I wasn't nervous because of the Bellator thing. I was not in a good spot in my life. I was real down. Things weren't going my way at that particular time. And so the nerves weren't because of the stage. I was actually amped up to be fighting for Bellator. I like to be in those situations. I do my best when the lights are on and the pressure's on and people expect you, you better live up to your standard. I like that. I like I don't want to waste my time fighting for these no-name promotions. I'm trying to get to the top. So the opportunity to fight for Bellator was exciting. I was stoked to be there. But I just had a lot going on in my personal life, and I was just at a low point. So the nerves mostly came from just me being in a weird place in my own head and in my own life, and just almost wanting to just get the fight over with so I could move on to the next chapter of my life. So that's honestly what it was, man. It was a weird feeling of just kind of, I wanted to get it over with. It was strange, but you always have nerves when you compete. So I had my nerves, and I was probably, one of the most nervous that I've ever been in that fight, but it also was one of my better performances up until the point where the fight turned and I ended up losing that fight. But I had one of my better performances going in there, scared. So it is what it is, man. I would love to get back to that stage or, another promotion larger than them. But, yeah, man, you feed off your nerves in there. If you're not nervous when you're going in, there's something wrong. I've noticed recently that my nerves are actually getting less and less, just because I really believe in myself more and more, and I realize just how good I am. And so the nerves are more it's more like wanting to be able to perform at the level that I know I'm able to perform at. It's no longer nerves of oh, am I going to get hurt, or no longer nerves of my opponent. I don't fear any man. It's more I hope I can perform at the level that I know I'm capable of performing at.
That's dope. That is so dope. Man, that's awesome. It's cool to see the progression that you've had, just talking to you now and then kind of just watching you from the side for the last 10, 15 years. Just have the progression, the confidence, but it's not an arrogance, it's a confidence, and there's a difference there. It's cool to watch, and it's cool to see and cool to hear about. Now, after Bellator, you said you had a good fight, you ended up losing. That's one thing that's tough for me about the sports like MMA, like mixed martial arts and any kind of fighting sport for that matter is, you put a lot of time and effort into your training camps. You're going, some camps are 8 to 12 weeks, some are even 16, some are even longer. It just depends, and you can be training, and sometimes all it takes is one guy to get a good shot, and that, I wouldn't even call it a lucky shot if they time it perfectly, and you might be having a great fight. It turns it. There was a guy named Matt Jones. I'm sure you know him. I had him on my show a couple months ago, and
he's a former teammate of mine.
Yeah, Matt's a stud, and in his most recent fight, man, it was a bummer. The guy caught him with the right hand at the beginning of the fight, and while he was able to, fight back and actually make a great fight out of it until the last round, he spent the whole first round trying to recover, and he was lucky they didn't get called. So it's that's what's so tough for me when you find yourself in situations like that, I guess when you train so hard and then maybe you get caught and you're in the middle of a fight, do you start feeling down? Like when you lost the Bellator fight, things were, you were fighting well and you ended up getting caught and losing essentially at the end of it. How do you recover from that, and what were the next steps after the Bellator fight?
Yeah, man, good question. So, I mean, now in hindsight, like looking back, it's all necessary experience. And like now, if I get hurt in a fight, nothing changes. My mindset stays the same. I don't go like, oh no, I'm in trouble. Like I don't show that I'm hurt. I focus, on myself and keeping my composure. And I'm still trying to find ways to win until I'm either out cold or you gotta kill me. You know what I mean? Like you can hurt me in there and I'm not going to stop. I'm going to continue to find a way to take you out. But those, I'm like that now because of the fights that I've been through where I've been hurt. And you get rocked and it takes your mind off of what you're going to do and you focus on surviving, whatever. And that's part of fighting, man. And you have to appreciate those times where you do get hurt because it makes you realize like, oh, I can come back from this and I can still win this fight. And that's how you get great fights. That's how you get great comebacks. Is guys who are almost out, they get dropped, they're almost finished. The ref lets it keep going, and then that guy can come back and win the fight. And it turns into one of the greatest, comebacks ever. So, with my Bellator fight, that's almost exactly what it was. I was, like I said, I wasn't in a good spot in life, man. I was kind of going through a depression. A lot of things in my personal life were just kind of not going well. And that loss was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, after that loss, I knew something had to change. And moving to San Diego was one of those things. I needed new scenery. I needed new people around me. I had to kind of do some soul searching and figure out what my next move was. And ultimately came full circle and realized, like, no, I'm still going to do this. Like, it's what I was meant to do. So like, there's no other option for me at this moment. I had to learn from that loss and understand what I did wrong and what I did wrong in preparation, what I did wrong in the fight. And that loss made me a better person. So you have to appreciate those moments, man, because they make you stronger at the end of the day.
So you head down to San Diego after that Bellator fight. You said things weren't going your way. Can you kind of tell us like what the move was like when you decided, okay, I'm going to head down there?
Sure. Yeah, it was awesome, man. I was excited. Like I said, I was kind of in a low place. I'll touch on that a little bit. I was down in Boise. I lived in Boise for, I want to say 19 or 20 years, man. And I loved it. I'm happy to have grown up in Boise, but eventually I just really outgrew that place. I outgrew the people there, and I just felt like I needed to get out of there, man. I was no longer, those last year or so, I just felt like I wasn't home anymore and I needed to go somewhere else. And I was dating a girl at the time, and she had family down here in San Diego, and she would come visit them. And one of the times she came to visit, she brought me with her and just kind of showed me around San Diego and showed me, the awesomeness that is San Diego. And I just fell in love, man. I'm like, oh, this is the spot. Okay, I need to come here. And she had wanted to come here, and so we were planning to move here together. And we've been planning this move and looking at homes and apartments and all this stuff and getting all excited over it. And we were about 3 or 4 weeks out from our planned move date, and we ended up splitting up. And and like I said, it all kind of happened at once. Like we split up, and then I lost my fight, and I just wasn't in a good place, man. And so I decided, I'm like, well, I'm still going to San Diego. Like I've already had my heart set on this, and I'm not going to let this hold me back. So I literally just kind of like threw everything in the back of my truck, whatever I could fit in my truck, just my dresser, bed, and everything else got tossed or given away. And I made the 14-hour drive straight from Boise to San Diego, in one day, and drove up here. And it was a really cool feeling, just driving and leaving Boise in my rear view, literally, and just knowing that I was off on this new adventure by myself to kind of start from scratch and start a new chapter in my journey.
It's a really cool story, man, because like you said before, it's almost like you implemented everything that you learned in the cage and your whole entire fighting experience, implement it into your personal life, because now you're outside of the cage, but you got a fight going on right now. It's an internal battle, dealing with depression, and you've got to find a way out. And sometimes you just got to keep swinging until you're okay. And you kind of made it down there. And obviously, hindsight, at the time, it probably seemed like it was, life sucks sometimes, so you can't really see what's going to happen in front of you. But now you look back and you're like, okay, I was able to fight myself out of it. Now I'm where I'm at. I'm coaching, I'm training, and it's great. Like you get it, and like you said earlier, you're doing something, you're working, doing what you love doing, and it's, you know, you feel like you've pretty much hit the high on life, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more with what you were saying about, you know, martial arts helping you in real life too. There's that's something that Joe Rogan says, who's a comedian, he's a commentator for the UFC. He says martial arts is like a vehicle for life. It teaches you to deal with your everyday challenges in life, just like you would in a fight. You know, a life is going to beat you up. Life's going to drop you on your butt, and you got to learn to get back up and go, all right, well, that set me back a little bit, but I'm going to keep fighting because that's in my nature. You know, I'm a fighter, and I'm going to keep figuring this thing out. And it's, yeah, you nailed it when you said that, man. That's exactly how it was. Is I moved down here, and I knew that it wasn't going to be easy, but I knew that I had the drive to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish, and that's exactly what's been happening ever since I moved down here.
That's so dope, dude. It's so dope. And I want to know a little bit about this upcoming fight you've got. I saw this posted on social media. You got something going on. Is it still in the works? And when is it? And can you talk about this fight?
Yeah, absolutely. So the next fight is going to be May 27th. It's a Sunday. It's for a promotion called Triumphant Combat Series, or Triumphant Muay Thai, excuse me. And it's a Muay Thai fight. So one thing that happened when I moved down here to San Diego is I ended up I found a coach who was mainly a Muay Thai coach, but he had opened an MMA gym, and I came down here and against Carl Gebhardt, and I started learning from him and just kind of synced up with him and realized, like, whoa, you know, I found my coach, man. It was really strange how I found a coach that understood me as an individual and as a fighter, and he knew how to coach me and just kind of how to get me better. And one of the first times I trained with him, I felt myself progress more in that small time frame. It was like an hour. And then I had in months. You know, I just felt myself get better, and I just felt like I had found the right coach for me, and that my career was about to skyrocket. So we started training Muay Thai, and I started just really, really sharpening my striking skills. I kind of put the MMA on the back burner. You know, I kind of fell out of love with MMA and was looking for something new, but I still wanted to fight, you know. So I discovered Muay Thai and absolutely fell in love with Muay Thai. It's just a beautiful, beautiful, violent art. You know, there's no other way to say it. It's punches, it's kicks, it's knees, it's elbows, it's clinch, it's all standing. And I just started learning this, and I couldn't get enough, man. I was in the gym every single day, sometimes twice a day, just trying to soak up as much of this sport as I could and learn from one of the greatest coaches that I've ever found. And so obviously the next step was to test my skills. I'm like, all right, let's do a Muay Thai fight. And I had my first Muay Thai fight last year in July, and I won that. I won a unanimous decision, all 4 rounds. I smoked the dude, and I loved it. It literally ignited my soul. And dabbled in MMA again after that. I knew that, you know, MMA is still the goal. I'm still trying to get to the UFC. I'm still trying to be a world champion in MMA. That's always the goal. But I just feel like, you know, there's multiple paths to that destination. And for now, I'm really, really digging Muay Thai. So after the MMA fight, I kind of told my coach, I was like, hey, man, I kind of want to do Muay Thai again. And as soon as we made that switch, an opportunity to fight for this promotion, Triumphant, arose. And it's a good promotion. It's coming up on the scene, but it's going to do big things for Muay Thai. And so I was very honored that the promoter picked me to fight on this card. And so that's what I've been doing, man, for the past 2 months now, is just sticking to Muay Thai and sharpening that sword. And the next fight is May 27th. It's a Sunday. The really cool thing is it's going to be on UFC Fight Pass. So if you have, like a smart TV, you can just download the UFC app and you'll be able to watch it on Fight Pass, which is really cool because that means it's going to reach a large audience. And the way I fight, man, I'm always putting it on people, putting on exciting fights and talking smack, running my mouth, showboating. So I'm always going to draw fans, whether you like that or you don't, you're going to watch me. So I'm pretty stoked, man. I'm excited for this next one.
Sick. Okay, so we know where to watch you and how to watch you. And that was what I wanted to ask you something about this, because in regards to fighting, this is just a question that always comes up when it comes to like getting ready for the fight. You have to make weight. Are you fighting, like, how does the MMA weight classes compare to Muay Thai? And when you're cutting weight, what are your strategies for that?
Yeah, man. So the MMA weight classes, they're always like in 10-pound increments, right? It starts at flyweight for men 125, and it goes to 135, 45, 55, and up, right? And for striking, it's a little bit different. They have them a little closer together. It's still a little weird. I'm still kind of figuring it out myself, actually, because there's boxing ones too, or there's one like every 5 pounds or something like that. So there's a little more weight classes. In Muay Thai, it's a little bit different. Like this fight is going to be actually at 130 pounds, which I'm not sure if that's even a catch weight or if that's an actual weight class. I don't really care, man. They just, I get an opportunity to fight. I don't care what weight it's at. I'm going to fight. So this one will be at 130. The normal weight class that I was fighting at for my last fight is 127 is the weight. And when it comes to weight cutting, man, I've never cut a lot of weight. I don't think it's smart. I know some guys like to have that size advantage, that strength advantage. I don't feel like I need it. I'd rather be the smaller, faster guy and just dance around you and light you up while you're trying to, out-muscle me, whatever. I don't mind being smaller. I've fought a lot of bigger dudes in my career, so I just don't think it's smart to severely dehydrate your body, 24 hours before a giant competition like a professional fight. So I've never been too big on weight cutting. I'll usually, like for this fight, I'll probably end up cutting like 6 pounds, 7 pounds, whatever. A lot of it is dietary changes. Like when I had to get down to 127 for my last Muay Thai fight, that was the lowest weight I was ever going to have to compete at in my fighting career. So one dietary change that I made, or at least that my body decided to make, was that I cut out a lot of meat. And I didn't eat any red meat or chicken or pork. I kept fish, and then I kept eggs. So I was pescatarian. And when I did that, my body just shed like 10 pounds. 10 pounds that I didn't even know I had to lose. I'm already a little guy, so it was pretty shocking to me to see my body kind of transform. But for this fight, I went back to eating meat again a couple months ago, and I love it. It's just I feel stronger. I feel, I enjoy it a little bit more. So I'm walking around a little bit bigger nowadays, and for my weight cuts, man, I usually do like a salt bath, or I'll do some sauna time. It's never too hard for me to make weight. Again, coming from wrestling, like I know how to do it. And I don't cut a lot of weight, so I don't stress too much over the weight cuts. I don't think it's smart,
Good for you, man. That's awesome. I've heard some drastic ones that'll drop 30 pounds in less than 10 days. Like to me, it's terrible for you. It's actually like I just don't know from just like your natural body reactions, even if you can make the weight, and everyone rehydrates with their Pedialyte or whatever they're drinking, I still don't feel like your body's up to its normal speed by the time you come up to the fight after you've dropped so much. It's like it's impossible to do that.
There's a science to it, there really is. Like the guys at the highest level, they hire nutritionists, they hire these wizards to come in and coordinate their weight cut with them. And there is a way to do it right. There's a way to drop 20 pounds in, a few days and keep your body at that low weight for just a small amount of time and then weigh in. And there's guys who will literally, they'll weigh 20 pounds more on fight night than they did on the weigh-in. So there's a science to it, and there's the right way to do it. But again, I agree with you. I don't think it's healthy, and I don't think you fully recover from that if you're making these big weight cuts. So, I don't enjoy it. I'll fight anybody. I don't really care. I don't need to cut weight. I prefer to just I'd fight at my natural weight, if I could. So.
Yeah, well, props to you, man. That's the way to go. It's the fighter mentality. So, Brendon, to wrap this up, I kind of want to just ask you why our listeners should be paying attention to Brendon Raftery, whether it be Muay Thai or MMA, and where do you see yourself? You've been in San Diego for roughly 2 years now since you made that move after your Bellator match. Where do you see yourself in the next 2 years, since so much has already happened, and why should we be paying attention to you, and what should we be looking for?
Sure, yeah. So, I always say, you never really know where you're going to end up. You always have a plan for yourself and what you think is going to happen. I see myself still in San Diego in 2 years, honestly. Like, I love it here, man. I feel like I found my city. I want San Diego to be like my headquarters. I want to get a house here. San Diego's awesome here. I love it here. The people, the scenery, the beach. I need the beach in my life. I need more sunshine than rain clouds. You know what I mean? So as far as where I'm going to be, I plan on staying in San Diego, man. I don't plan on going anywhere else. But again, that's not really up to me. We'll see what the universe has in store for me. It's not really my call sometimes. As far as fighting, man, you should watch me because I'm exciting. I always try to be exciting. I think that as fighters, we are entertainers, and we kind of have an obligation to entertain the fans. There's a lot of coaches who aren't fond of that mentality, and they'll say, no, your job is to get the win. And yeah, for sure, you're trying to get the win, but there's people who are paying money to come and see you, and they want to be entertained. And so that's kind of what I try to do. And, you know, not always for the fans. I do it for myself, man. Like, I'm in there running my mouth and holding my hands up in the air because I enjoy it. Like, it's fun. I like messing with my opponent because, you know, it either gets them pissed off or it makes them freeze up, both of which I want, you know, because it pulls you out of your game plan. So I'm an exciting fighter, man. I'm kicking people in the head. I'm you know, I have hand speed that is unmatched by anybody. I haven't seen anybody, you know, with speed like me. I'm accurate, and I put on exciting fights, man. So that's why you should watch Brendon Raftery.
Hell yeah, man. So everybody needs to be paying attention. So May 27th, that's coming up soon. And then going forward, keep an eye on Brendon Raftery. Brendon, I appreciate you joining the show, brother. Man, I'm going to be keeping an eye on you. These are the types of people I root for. It's like we always get caught up in these, you know, whenever you're rooting for anyone, whether it be an athlete or a singer or whatever it might be, we all know the popular people. And as a podcaster, people always say, well, I know the main sportscasters and all these popular guys, but nobody really like talks about the up and coming talent that we should be rooting for. You're one of those guys I root for because you're from my town and you're doing something that we should all be paying attention to. Why do we all have to be looking at the big time fighters? Why aren't we paying attention to the up and coming ones? Why can't you be the same as them? You can, and that's why I'm rooting for you. So I'm stoked for you, brother. And for all the listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed this interview. You should be rooting for Brendon Raftery as well. And you know the drill. Subscribe to the show. We'll talk to you guys next week. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.